Thank you for attending the Cannabis Investor Webcast. Our platinum sponsors today is Nemus Bioscience Incorporated, Cannabis Science Incorporated, Kaya Holdings Incorporated, Technical 420, Tariga Sciences Incorporated, and Pathogen DX. Please reserve the date May 23rd, 2016 for the Cannabis Publicly Traded Companies, Investors, Analysts, and Media Conference. The website address is cannainvestorconference.com. Again, CANNA investorconference.com. Our next presenter is John Hollister, CEO and President of Nemus Bioscience Incorporated. John, give me a couple of seconds and I will make you a presenter.
So before we get going, as is always the case, we'll be discussing some forward-looking statements to the best of our ability. We're trying to be as accurate as possible, but there are lots of different variables in developing pharmaceutical products, and certainly there are lots of things outside of our control in kind of macroeconomics. So be sure to read this and be aware that we're doing all that we can to be accurate. Nemus Bioscience is a biopharmaceutical company. We are a drug development company. Our aims are to offer physicians and patients condition-specific benefits through cannabinoids, the proteins from cannabis, to alleviate symptoms associated with a broad range of debilitating diseases. And our goal is to become the premier developer of cannabis-based pharmaceuticals. Frankly, we have a tremendous platform to work from, and below you see some of the key variables about our company. We are traded as NMUS on the OTCQB. This is a slightly dated capture at the time, and some other variables about our company. We are based in Southern California, in Costa Mesa. That's where our headquarters is, and we also have a laboratory in Oxford, Mississippi, and our partners, the University of Ole Miss. Some highlights of the company is that we have a proprietary product pipeline led by a new chemical entity, a prodrug form of THC. I'll describe that in more detail as we go on. That patent was issued, a very broad patent for both composition of matter and formulations and combinations. Also includes some of the processes in order to create that. Last year in August, the lead compound, NB1111, is a first-in-class for the treatment of glaucoma. We'll explain why we chose glaucoma as our lead target. We are, Nemus is the only commercial partner of the University of Mississippi. We work with them very closely and feel very fortunate to be able to work with the great experience that Mississippi has. University of Mississippi is unique in that they are the only U.S. entity that's been authorized by the federal government to cultivate cannabis for research purposes. They've been doing so since 1968. They are a preeminent school of botanical sciences as well as school of pharmacy. They've been applying, when I say they, 100 or more doctoral, postdoctoral, and faculty have been studying cannabis throughout these years, their genetics, cloning, growing, extracting, and manipulation of the individual cannabinoids. And then to be successful in this business of drug development, you need a good product and good partners, but you also need a really good management team, and we think we have assembled a best-in-class group. Just briefly, my background, after Stanford, went to SmithKline Beecham, did classic management development, carried a bag in the field, and then went to Philadelphia and was in product management, and went to Europe, helped build a little sales force, came back to the States and launched the product. Decided to move back to California where our families, both my wife and my families are, to go to a little startup company called Averon, where we branded a product called Flu Mist, intranasal flu vaccine. That company was ultimately bought by MedImmune. I headed south to Southern California, where we did, to Amgen, where I helped launch the product called Neulasta, which is, I think, to date still the best, biggest biologics launch in the history of business, and then moved into a new position called Global Commercial Leader, where I led a number of different teams in oncology, bringing some assets into humans, and also managing phase 1, 2, 3, and phase 4 of Neulasta. In the mid-2000s, I jumped from Amgen to be the CEO of a medical device company for a few years, and then then moved to a diagnostics company for a few years, and did some consulting with a number of startup companies before jumping here back in May of last year. My first move was to hire a world-class chief medical officer in Dr. Brian Murphy. He had started his medical training in New York, then did his residency and chief residency at Tufts, went to Brigham and Women's and Mass General for dual fellowships, and then taught clinical trial design at Harvard. But then also moved back to New York to do research and see patients at the Catholic hospital system, where he was discovered by the then CEO of Roche while he was giving a grand rounds presentation. And then Brian decided to jump into industry and has not looked back since then. While he was with Roche as a medical director, he also completed an MBA at Columbia, so he has quite a set of initials after his name. After a few years at Roche, he decided to go west, like I had, and went to Intermune, where he was actually the VP of Sales and Marketing. And after a couple of years there, he went to Valiant and was his chief medical officer. And during that time, they actually licensed a product called Sezamet or Nabilone, which is a synthetic THC product. So I actually got experience in the cannabinoids, which is pretty rare actually in the pharmaceutical industry. And from there, he went, like I had, to smaller biotech companies, and he went to Epiphany and Eiger. So he's had the big experience and small company experience, which is really important in drug development. And then we also, last year, were joined by an equally impressive CFO who, like me from Stanford, went to PwC and had large and small company responsibilities as CFO, and Liz Perez is great. And we were founded by Cos Lycos, who is our executive chair, and Cos was originally a lawyer, a GC, for a number of big public companies. He also was focused on compliance, which is great in our space, but he always had an itch to be an entrepreneur and became quite successful at that in a series of different companies. And so he was, and he really is the passion and vision, inspiration behind this. I think the audience that I'm speaking to today is very familiar with cannabinoids. Cannabinoids have shown a large or broad ability to affect lots of different systems in the body and have potential to do a lot of beneficial, have a lot of beneficial impacts on people in various conditions. Many publications have been in journals. Much of that material was actually grown or cultivated by the University of Mississippi and funded by NIDA, and that gives us lots of confidence that cannabis works for different conditions. The only issue with cannabinoids is that when they are consumed orally, they unfortunately are subject to high patient-to-patient variability. And this is true of pills or edibles, and is well documented in literature. It's in the package inserts of the various licensed products. And sorry about that. And it also is seen in the currently approved products in Europe, including Sativex. The goal of Nemus is to design molecules that are able to be absorbed in the human body, bypassing the liver, with the goal of having more predictable bioavailability and hopefully corresponding safety and efficacy profiles. In order to do that, this reflects a couple of things. One, we have license from the University of Mississippi formulations for ocular delivery, transmucosal delivery, and also rectal delivery. And so that's in the top. We could also likely administer our lead compound transdermally and also intranasally. We just haven't shown that. The others actually been demonstrated in animals. What you see below charted is a visual example of what we're aiming to do. And that graphic, you're looking at plasma concentrations. The blue line, and these are from human studies in a precursor to our existing product. It was a THC prodrug that was being developed before. This is phase 1 design clinical trial. What you see in the blue line is dronabinol being administered. You see the very classic, very rapid high peak and then a very rapid decline in bioavailability. And of course, this is an average of the number of patients. But it reflects the issue that you have a big spike, which actually goes outside of the therapeutic window, and then it drops below the therapeutic window very rapidly. The brown line represents or reflects the data from those patients who are the subjects who had the suppository of the prodrug form, and you see a much slower growth or rise in terms of bioavailability and a much slower decline, and it's much more extended. The area under the curve that was inside of the therapeutic in this, which is called the AUC, was significantly larger in the 10 milligram suppository dose. This is what we hope to replicate in our different formulations. I mentioned that we've licensed a number of different products from the University of Mississippi, and those include a worldwide exclusive rights to this THC ester. This ester is a prodrug form. I'll describe it a little bit more on the next slide, but it is worldwide exclusive rights and they're perpetual rights. That patent was issued in 2014. We also have licensed 3 formulations of that particular compound, and the rights allow us to license any of them that we so choose in the future. We also have a research agreement that we had a press release recently on in the area of methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, or MRSA, a very significant problem worldwide, particularly in hospitals or other institutional settings. The Staph aureus bacteria has become resistant to a number of commonly used antibiotics and presents a real threat to particularly hospitalized patients. And so we're optimistic about being able to develop a topical treatment for that. I mentioned the patent that we referred to. This is the number. It was issued last August. It consists of 66 claims, starting with the composition of matter. Also, it has a number of underlying elements to it and can be used in many forms and also combined with other products, which may present opportunities in the future. Last year, before kind of the end of Q3, beginning of Q4, we did a pretty extensive project looking at where we wanted to go first. It's called a strategic asset management evaluation. We had a consultancy help us do this. They do this work for very large pharma companies, or have in the past for Pfizer and Merck and others, and do this for smaller, medium-sized companies like ourselves. And in essence, as I think most of you know, there's lots of literature that says you could use cannabinoids or cannabis to treat different areas that range from central nervous system to GI tract, like emesis, to inflammatory areas, pain management, and then, you know, potentially even in treatment of areas like cancer, oncology. As we did that evaluation through a set of variables, we determined that glaucoma was the most attractive target for us for a whole series of different reasons. And this slide allows you to get a sense of what glaucoma is for the person who's suffering from it. The normal field of vision being on your left, and a person who's suffering from glaucomas, their field of sight continues to narrow in a kind of circular pattern. The market is a very large market. It's the #1 cause of blindness in the US and North America. It's the #2 cause of blindness globally. It's roughly an $8 billion market and growing around the world. In the United States, there are roughly 32 million prescriptions. The regulatory pathway is well defined, and what we mean by that is a number of companies have gone down this path, including a company currently. So it's easier for us to determine what the FDA, the agency, looks and thinks about the space in terms of the kinds of trials that need to be run. Because it leads to blindness, there is the potential for urgent medical need and breakthrough therapy, as we are a novel mechanism of action. The market is a non-responder market, and what that means is 50% of people who have glaucoma use 2 or more of the categories of products every day in eye drop forms. There's some resistance that builds up. There are issues with each of the products. They all carry with them black box warnings, and black box warnings are typically safety concerns of a particular product. And then lastly, one of the elements of the evaluation was about the deals that have been struck in the area, and the ocular space, in glaucoma in particular, is typified where the majority of deals, that is out-licensing or outright sales of a product or platform, happen early in preclinical or in phase 1, which is exciting from an investment perspective. Some features about our NB1111. This is from data in rabbits. It was presented at the AAPS meeting in October of last year. The NB1111 penetrates all 3 chambers of the eye. What makes our compound unique is the parent compound, delta-9-THC, has had a couple of side chains added to it. They serve as a key to open the door in different barriers, in a simple term, so you can actually get the product into the eye, which you cannot do with the parent compound. The delta-9-THC is a ligand, an oil, if you will, that does not penetrate the cornea of the eye very effectively, in fact, not well at all. And so our molecule is novel, and when well concentrated, it actually permeates into the eye. It accesses all 3 chambers of the eye, and that was shown in this study. It also produces what you want it to. It reduces the intraocular pressure within glaucoma, and by upwards of 50%, which is as good or better than anything else that's ever been licensed. Importantly, when they looked at the systemic systems, no THC was detected in the systemic system of these rabbits, which is exciting, and we hope to see that the case in humans also. Our goal is to have a once daily or twice daily, that's QD or BID dosing, and we are potentially the first medication in this class, or in this category, to target both the optic nerve through 2 mechanisms and perhaps 4, 2 but for reducing IOP, but as you'll see in a later slide, doing other potential benefits too. Just for a little more background on the market, this market in the US is about 50% prostaglandins and then 50% non-prostaglandins. And then, as I said before, 50% of patients actually use a product from each of the categories. In terms of mechanisms of action, I mentioned this before, if you look at our drug, NB1111, it looks to be able to do or work in 4 different areas inside of the eye. 2 of them are unique in that the one is causing outflow of fluids in the trabecular mesh portion of the lower part of the front of the eye, and also increase flow through the uvuscleral pathway, decrease fluid production, and also potentially neuroprotective qualities in the back of the eye, and that's very exciting because it could lead us to other potential indications. Of interest, when we find ourselves with a compound, like most of you know, cannabis or marijuana have been used in the general population for a very long time, and there's a number of publications that demonstrate efficacy for a variety of reasons. So in essence, the proof of concept has been done in humans, and now we're reproving it in animals to go back into humans, which is the path that we're doing in order to accomplish the goal of giving physicians in the US something that has been vetted appropriately through the FDA process A prescription is available written and then fulfilled at a CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid, wherever you get your prescriptions filled, and then it's paid for by the insurance company. That's our goal. But humans have already been studying this, which gives us a very high sense of confidence that these products will work. And in particular in glaucoma, it's been studied by marijuana or cannabis has been studied by NIH, leading universities, and the Army, demonstrating efficacy in glaucoma and reductions of IOP upwards of 65%. The only issue is systemic use of cannabinoids is also known to reduce systemic blood pressure, and that has the potential for reducing blood flow to the optic nerve, offsetting any of the benefits you might have from the IOP reduction. I'm going to just point out that there are some data from the rabbit models that are included in this presentation, so those are available for you to review at your leisure. This slide reflects what I mentioned earlier, that licensing deals are done early in the ocular space. This is a data set of 265 deals that have been done in the last 7 years. As you see, they're heavily weighted to the left. This is not the slide that you would see if it were in almost any other therapeutic area where deals are almost always done very late in development. This also gives you a reflection of what that translates to, and what this scale shows is the net present value grows as you go through the development phases. So the value of Nemus grows with time. This is based on what happens with our when you meet successful passing from preclinical to phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. This is a little bit more granular roll-up. On the top, there's a statement that $750 million peak year. That means that these net present values are calculated based off of what our projections of 10% market penetration occurring in peak year 7. These are just the early net present values blown up so that my aging eyes can see them as well as yours in preclinical phase 1 and phase 2. But what it says is the company's worth a fair bit of money just based on glaucoma. This does not factor in our immersive work or CBD work or any other work that we have yet to discuss. From a timeline perspective, NB 1111, this year we're focused on CMC and formulation work, as well as that will be the balance of the year. Next year we'll be working on IND enabling studies, as well as the clinical batch scaling, etc., as well as then clinical trial materials, and that would be the balance of 2016. File an IND target is late 2016, and with phase 1B, 2A clinical trials in the first half of 2017. Use of proceeds, we have been, what we've projected our costs for this year, roughly $2.6 million will be our use of proceeds during the balance of 2015, predominantly for glaucoma CMC formulation. And these expenditures are specific to the glaucoma development. 3.2 million next year and 1.8 million for the study itself. I did mention that it's a highly regulated market with the FDA, DEA, and NIDA. I think all of you are very familiar with it, but importantly, the DEA plays a really important role, and our reason for our partnership with the University of Mississippi is that they have been the only entity allowed in this country to cultivate cannabis. They've done so for all these years. They have this built-up experience, which is fabulous, which we are the beneficiaries of. So the University of Mississippi has this relationship with these different entities. They're tremendous. There's a little bit of historical information here for those of you who are not familiar with that history. So Nemus benefits from this relationship in that we not only can license the rights, but we have the intellectual capital of these fabulous group of postdoc and doctoral students, as well as faculty who've literally been working in this area for 45 years, and they serve as our research and development discovery zone and have the ability to do so in working with the natural product. We focus some of our efforts where we want to, and in large part, the work that's being done there is funded by the National Institutes of Drug Abuse, NIDA. These are our major programs that we speak about publicly. The top two are involved with our THC compound. Glaucoma is clearly the lead, which we speak of. I'm not going to speak much about the multiple sclerosis spasticity, but it's certainly one of our targets. Anxiety and epilepsy fall into our CBD world, where we're working on a molecule that would have similar attributes as the THC compound. And then lastly, and I have spoken, there is some information in this presentation about methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, an exciting compound because it gets us into the infectious disease area. We have some interests also that extend into area of HIV and other infectious disease. Very, very fascinating area of application potentially. For those who are not familiar, methicillin-resistant Staph aureus is was first described in 1961. There are a few treatments for it. Bupiricin is one of them, but resistance has been building very quickly, and it has, as you see there, causes 11,000 deaths annually, and far more infections, and very, very difficult to treat. It's extremely costly. It causes big headaches in hospitals in order to clean their environment when they become compromised. There is a history of publications in this area, so there is literature that supports the inhibitory effects of different cannabinoids, and we're working actively in this area to develop a compound with very attractive properties. We will, this slide represents that we work with University of Mississippi and all of their experience to extract individual cannabinoids. We might work with contract manufacturing to develop, or the university to develop synthetic versions of this. So we are agnostic in terms of whether our ultimate product is a natural product or a synthetic product, and we'll be determining that shortly. We work with a number of world-class partners, and we intend to continue to do so, including the University of Mississippi with private labs in the area. Our legal partners are Latham and Watkins, and they've been very, very helpful for us in a lot of areas. We work with contract CMC and CMOs and CROs outside, as well as APIs. And our long-term goal is to be an incubator of cannabinoid products and out-license them or outright sell them to other pharmaceutical or biotech concerns. We don't have an intention of being a commercialization company, grossing up for a large sales force, although we could do it. If we do it, it will be likely in a specialty area with a smaller sales force. As I mentioned, our management team is world-class. We have lots of help. The management team themselves represent these companies in our history. Below you see different partners who are helping us make a business. I mentioned Cause Lycos earlier, myself, Brian and Liz. I also explained their backgrounds. But I wanted to show that we also have a tremendous independent board, and for those of you who didn't catch it on Monday, we announced the addition of Doug Ingram as vice chairman of our board. Doug is the outgoing president of Allergan, or just immediate past president of Allergan. Has a distinguished career at Allergan, very familiar with glaucoma as well as the dermatologic area, so extremely helpful to us. Tom George is a very seasoned, experienced CFO. He's the CFO of, right now, of Deckers Unlimited, or Deckers Outdoor, which is a $4 billion company in Santa Barbara. And then at the bottom is Jerry McLaughlin. He's the CEO of a startup biotech company on the East Coast, medical device company experience also, and and very deep experience. So a great board. We also have the beginnings of our scientific advisory in Mahmoud Ali, who's the director at the University of Mississippi of the Marijuana Research Project. He also holds a number of patents, 300 publications or more, has edited or written the chapters in most medical books about cannabis, and works very closely with us. And then we also look to professional outside advisors in areas of regulatory as well as commercialization. And with that, I think I will turn it back over to Derwin and questions for anybody in the audience.
Thank you, John. Give me a couple of seconds to queue up questions. Our first question is from Rita Powell. Rita, I think you have a mic. You can go ahead and ask John your question.
Yes, John. The partnership that you have with the University of Mississippi, does that include the contract that they were just awarded for $68 million from NIDA?
Hi, Rita. Thank you so much for the question. Yeah, for those who don't know, the University of Mississippi, as NIDA, every 5 years issues an RFP looking for the next contractor to supply the research community with materials for the grants that that NIDA supports around the country. And this year, like the last number of times, the University of Mississippi was awarded that grant again. And it doesn't, we play no role in that, so that's specific between NIDA and the University of Mississippi, but it does give us the breathing room to be able to work with the University of Mississippi and know that they will continue to do the work that they're doing, that the doctoral students, postdoctoral students will be working as they have been doing for the last 45 years, and we are the beneficiaries of that research use. So and you're right, it's just over $68 million that helps run their operations. They work extremely hard for that. I say it sounds like a lot of money, but they also work really hard in order to satisfy the demands. So thank you, Rita, for the question.
Next question, John. How are other companies conducting R&D on cannabis when University of Mississippi is the only entity licensed by the government? I'm pretty sure you got that question before.
Yeah. So we live in interesting times. So there are two different areas. There are people who are working with synthetic compounds in the U.S. Who are using, for all intents and purposes, it's a generic product that's licensed. So both Marinol, dronabinol is the generic name, and Sesamet, napalone, the generic name, are available for companies because they are descheduled licensed products, and people are using them. They are the parent compounds. One's a variant of THC and one is THC. And so they're able to use those, but they are subject to the limitations, as I described earlier, of bioavailability issues and can't cross barriers as our compound can. On the other opportunities, you can do research in our country, so you can have clinical products that are being governed by the FDA in a clinical trial setting, but at some point you have to go to the DEA and ask for a rescheduling of that product. So that presents a challenge at some point. Then lastly, there are companies who are working in the state environment, so Colorado, Washington, or California, for example, where they're working with materials, but it's our view that the DEA continues to have purview over that, and it's a very difficult pathway to go from there to cross-border movement of the product, and the concept of going through the FDA pathway is very complicated and high risk. And our company's view is the investors, et cetera, would still be subject to the risks of being found to be illegal and have that all resources, et cetera, confiscated. So we've chosen to take a very pristine pathway.
Our next question is from Alan Brockstein of 420 Investors. Let you know, John, Alan has never missed a webcast since we started, so he's on here every month diligently. But Alan, you have a mic and you can ask John your question.
Hey, John, thanks again for doing this.
My pleasure, Alan. It's good to hear your voice.
Yeah, it did not wash away in the recent floods. I'm trying to figure out how to send you guys some of that water, but I haven't figured it out yet.
It's a good money-making opportunity.
So my question is, it's, you know, for investors, it's kind of difficult, I would imagine, to look at the whole field of early-stage preclinical cannabinoid-focused biotech companies. How would you recommend to them that they consider you compared to other opportunities?
That's a great question, Alan. I appreciate it. It's a novel question for me. I'll also say thank you for the good work that you do in terms of covering the space. It's important that we get some real reputable analysts. We're fortunate to have a couple of them who have turned their focus on this industry, because it is, you know, it's an industry in transition from a place that was a lot grayer and frankly more illicit not very long ago. And finally, from under the shrouds, we can start focusing our energies on truly developing medicines from this incredible plant and realizing the potential. So if one is looking at the field, there are of the cannabis space, I kind of look at it in three segments. There's a personal use segment that we're not involved in, and that one I really haven't focused on how you determine what you're going to do. In the medical marijuana world, there are a host of different companies that are, I think, a lot more akin to what goes on in the herbal and consumer products world, and you have to be very aware of what the rules and regs are and what claims are allowed and what aren't allowed in order to project what's going to happen in the market. In the pharmaceutical world where we are, it really comes down to an assessment of the management team. Are they tried and true? Are they doing? Are they people who have been there, done that, and know how to work with the agency, the FDA? Really important to have, in our belief, is a really good working relationship with them, and we look forward to that. Then you think of, once you get beyond that, you look at the products, and in the case of cannabis, you have to understand that there are a lot of patents in the world of cannabinoids. These products have in fact been patented. Many of them are government, many of them owned by a couple of the players, including GW Pharma and AbbVie in the marketplace, which makes it very difficult for a company to invest the amount of money necessary to be a pharmaceutical product. And so you have to really do your due diligence to find out, is the product that they're building their company around, do they have the freedom to operate? Do they have patents to protect themselves? Yeah, and so that all the money that's being spent can be used towards that path. I'd also encourage people to think about, you know, what is the capital structure of the company? Have they gotten so diluted that they can't move? And we really are trying to work with ourselves very hard to manage that relationship very well. And then lastly, and this is kind of an ancient adage, if people are promising that they can do everything, they almost always are successful at nothing. So if the companies you're looking at are saying that they're going 10 different directions, it's just, you know, it's hard to get an analog of any company that's been successful in doing a whole bunch of different things. They really need to focus on a couple of them, or, you know, 3 or 4 at the stage of development to do this. And understand that in the drug development world, the last piece of this is one has to successfully raise the capital in order to do this and hit milestones. And so do the companies hit the milestones that they project they're going to hit, and that is a pretty good governance. I hope that answers your question, Alan.
Oh yeah, very well, and thank you for your kind words. Good luck, John.
Thanks, Alan.
John, the next question, you recently appointed a new board member. What does that board member bring to Nemus?
Yeah, thanks. You know, I appreciate the chance to say it a second time. Doug Ingram joined just this week, and he was literally the immediate past president of Allergan. Allergan is one of the most successful companies in the glaucoma area and ophthalmologic in general, and also very famous for the dermatologic, and probably most notable of that is Botox. They happen to be based in the same area that we are, which is in no small part why we chose to be there. There are a lot of ophthalmologic companies in our area, so that's helpful to us in terms of talent like Doug. But Doug particularly is fabulous, not beyond the fact that he's a really smart, he was originally a lawyer from Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher, very successful. But he spent 18 years at Allergan working in all sorts of different facets of capacity. So for me, you know, it's always helpful to have another extremely experienced person. And in his case, he helps me because I don't have a great deal of experience in the ophthalmologic world. And he knows what's going on with other companies. He knows what the cutting edge technologies are, what we should be doing beyond the eye drops. And so we already are looking at what happens after eye drops to make certain that we're providing optometrists, ophthalmologists, and patients the best technologies for treating the patients. The same can be said on the other side, on the dermatologic side. So, both his senior management experience of a company that has grown tremendously over the last 18 years, but also the therapeutic years. He brings both sides. Thank you for that question.
Next question is from Dan Stromberg. I think Dan has a mic. Dan, you can go ahead with your question.
Sure. Thank you for the very extensive presentation. It was really helpful. Could you talk about what percentage of your stock is held by institutions?
And I missed thinking by insiders?
Well, no, institutions. So who are your large outside third-party shareholders?
That's actually a new question for me, but a great question. Actually, at this stage, almost all of our stock is owned by individuals. Most of our fundraising to date has been through friends and family. We have one fund in Dallas, which is a family fund, which has a larger position in the 10% range. But really, frankly, there are no institutional investors at this stage. And we're just getting to the place where we become, of significant interest to them, and certainly are having conversations.
Okay, thank you.
Next and final question, John. You recently attended Markham Small Cap, LD Micro Invitational, IGC MTP Major. You've hired an investor relations firm, MZ Group. Your outreach to investors seems to be unmatched in the industry. Why do you put so much emphasis on investor relations?
That's a fun question. I wish you could see my smile right now, because it's always the balance of what you're doing at this stage. We're at a point now where we need more people to see our company and to know about what Nemus is doing to generate momentum. We actually, by most people's standards, and I find myself, you can't win for losing sometimes. Most people don't think that we are doing as much as they would like, or some people don't think are doing as much as they would like in terms of awareness. We don't spend very much money, actually, of our current budget. I should say almost nothing in terms of outbound awareness. Save our time and going and making presentations like this in support of a very good vehicle, attending some investor conferences, which we are definitely ratcheting up this year to make certain that people are aware of it. And fortunately and candidly, it's really heartwarming for us. We work very hard. When we go to a meeting like Marcom, which was brilliantly run a week ago in New York, and this week at LD Conference, LD Microcap, which is equally well run, the attendance was phenomenal. Our rooms were packed, and the reception was so positive, which is encouraging because from those people, our funding will happen over the next number of years in order to be successful in developing products that will help patients, because that's what we're in this business to do. We want to help patients address significant issues like the threat of blindness in glaucoma and or infections, and I personally look forward to the time when we are pushing towards anxiety and epilepsy as targets that we're treating, because those are equally challenging and very difficult for the patients.
So does that mean, John, you will be a major contributor and sponsor of the CANA Publicly Traded Companies Investor, Analyst, and Media Conference next May 2016? Can I get a commitment in front of everybody?
Well, Mike, I can't believe that I would miss it. So, Derwin, you can count me in. We'll be there.
Okay. Well, thank you, John. Any last comments?
I just want to say thank you for those of you who are out there and support this vehicle. Get active. I hope we can continue to support Nemus at some point, and just keep an eye on us, and feel free to send us comments when you have thoughts about what we can be doing better. But thank you so much, Derwin.
And thank you, John. We really appreciate your outreach to investors. You're on the webcast every month. I know the investors appreciate it. I know all the analysts, Alan Brockstein and Michael Berger and Viridian Capital, I know they really appreciate you being so forthright in giving us information and updating us on Nemus. So we do realize that you put a lot of time into your outreach, and we wanted to commend you for that. So thank you, John. And our next presentation is at the top of the